There's no day like new phone day, and if you've recently picked up a new Galaxy S10, then you'll find this a lot to get to grips with, which is why we've rounded up the top 6 things you need to do with your brand new S10. Take a second to subscribe to see more Galaxy S10 videos if you haven't already, and we'll jump in. So, biometrics, that's a fancy way to say face unlock or fingerprint unlock. This is part of the S10's initial setup, but if you blaze through it, then you want to make sure everything is in order. The S10 series does away with the janky iris scanning unlock of last year's phones, with a quicker and, yes, admittedly easier to fool face unlock system that takes just a few seconds to set up. The S10's in-screen fingerprint scanner has improved a fair bit with an update that rolled out on launch day, so that's worth another look if you were initially frustrated by it. It's still not perfect, but chances are it's still the main way you're going to be unlocking this phone, so you'll want to register both your thumbs and index fingers. There's an exception, of course, for all you lucky S10e owners, who get a standard capacitive fingerprint scanner on the side of your phone. Oh, and if you look under the gestures menu in advanced settings, you'll also see that you can enable this neat shortcut for pulling down the notification shade. By default, Samsung phones stick their on-screen keys for back, home, and recent apps in the reverse of the order that you'll see on most Android phones. If you're coming from something besides another Galaxy, that can be, well, slightly jarring. So, to switch them back to an order that's easier on the brain, go to the display menu and scroll down to navigation bar. It's worth mentioning here that the pressure-sensitive home key that we know from the S8 through to the Note 9 has actually gone away in Samsung's most recent phones. That means you can no longer hard press to unlock the phone or to go home from within a full-screen app. That's unfortunate, but perhaps understandable given the way the new in-screen fingerprint sensor works. However, if you want to free up the whole screen, you can also enable this full-screen gesture navigation system. Go to the navigation bar menu and you can enable it to swipe up from where either of the regular on-screen keys would normally be. You can also choose whether you want to see these tiny button guides at the bottom of the display, or if you want the entire screen to be dedicated to your content. Whichever S10 you picked up, chances are it wasn't cheap, so you'll likely want to protect it with a decent quality case or screen protector. We've got some of our favourites listed over on the site, linked down in the description below, from the sleek and slim to the tough and rugged. For something really unique, Samsung's LED cases are back too, and now let you decorate the back of your phone with a unique illuminated pattern. It's pretty neat, as you can see here. The S10 series also includes that good old SD card slot, and there are a bunch of great deals on cards to add more storage to your S10, from the cheap and cheerful all the way up to the half-terabyte super-fast monster cards for a little bit more cash. Most of Samsung's optional gesture controls aren't actually enabled by default, and that means you'll need to drill down into the settings to enable them. Some of them are really useful though, like the swipe-in shortcut to enable one-handed mode. Raise to wake is also there, and ideal when you combine it with the S10's face unlock feature. There's also double tap to wake, which can be handy when the phone is laid flat and you want to check your notifications. You'll find all this stuff under Settings, Advanced Features, Motion and Gestures. There are a couple of pretty essential settings changes that you'll want to make to see all your notifications on the Galaxy S10. The first has to do with the status bar. By default, the Galaxy S10 only shows you the icons of the 3 most recent notifications. To change that, you want to go to Settings, Notifications, Status Bar and change it to show all notifications. You can also toggle the battery percentage on or off while you're there. And next, the lock screen. By default, the S10 only shows you icons on your lock screen, which means you have to tap them to expand and see the actual notifications. To see the notifications themselves by default, go to Settings, Lock Screen, Notifications. There are a bunch of options here to control how much detail you see on your lock screen and how that information is displayed, but the most important one here is the view style. If you want the S10 to behave like most other Android phones, set this to Detailed, and once you're done, you'll see the full notification text on your lock screen. Bixby is of course back on the Galaxy S10, and it's actually grown a couple of interesting new features. For starters, there's Bixby Routines, which lets Bixby automate certain tasks based on the time of day, location, and a ton of other criteria. But let's be honest, the Bixby key is still a point of contention for a lot of us, so if you find you're pressing it accidentally or you just don't use Bixby Voice all that often, then you can now fully remap the Bixby key to do other stuff. And you can also set Bixby Voice itself to open only when you double tap the key. There are a bunch of choices available for a single press of the Bixby key. Load pretty much any Android app, or choose one of your existing Bixby routines if you've got these set up. Obviously, a fully fledged programmable button is a lot more useful than just a single Bixby key. So those are the first 6 things to get you started with your brand new Galaxy S10. Share your own tips down in the comments and subscribe so you don't miss our future S10 videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.